Hello, dear viewers of our Stop the Destruction of the World program. Today I'm going to give you a short account of how we began the association STOP. When Dr. Kepi moved to the United States in 1984, in fact at the beginning of the 80s, he started going there to give talks about analytical trilogy or integral psychoanalysis, but then he was invited there to set up a center to train psychoanalysts, doctors, and psychologists. He moved there permanently and began to integrate into the society. He started traveling a lot and began to see that the country and the people were kind of going backwards and experiencing rapid decadence. The American ideals, their way of life, their values, their farms, their schools, their hospitals, were all in a huge, very accentuated decadence. This caused concern, not only because of our fondness for the United States, but primarily because of what was happening there, indicated that this would also repeat in the rest of the world, because the United States is the leading nation on the planet. Dr. Kepi embarked on an intensive research study into all areas of life, into the economic, the agricultural, military, educational, the health, psychological, philosophical, and religious areas. He wrote a book entitled The Decay of the United States and the American People, or vice versa, actually. The Decay of the American People in the United States, of the American people in the United States. And a lot of powerful people didn't understand or like this message, because Kepi was proposing a return to the American ideals of the Founding Fathers, of the democracy in the Constitution, calling for a stop to uncontrolled consumption and speculation. He was already forecasting that this would lead the nation to ruin, and that the world would follow. So we mounted a campaign about this, but the powers at the time didn't let this reach the consciousness of the people. After this time, we moved to Europe in 1988 and witnessed the embryos of this decay already implanted there, because the American philosophy and values, and mainly the American economy, dominated the world. This decay or decadence, this destruction, began spreading around the planet, especially at the ecological level, because the country had instituted the uncontrolled consumption of pollutant energies and the philosophy of economic consumption. To see how big the problem has gotten in that country, let's take a look at this graph. Up to 1980, the United States was the biggest creditor in the world. Everybody owed money to the United States. They had wealth for themselves and could still lend to other nations. After 1980, with Reagan's arrival into government, the country began borrowing and is now the most indebted country. Today, this deficit has reached almost $9 trillion. Let's take a look at this graph. The American government's debt to banks as of July 18, 2007 was US dollars 8,888,892,979,897. This means that each American owes US dollars $29,000 and 388. If you divide it up between 300 and 2 million people, this is the situation today. After the incredible wealth they achieved through the work and labor of the thousands of immigrants, Europeans, Asians, blacks, who together built an incredible nation. And it's all passed into the hands of powerful international bankers. The United States has already lost the power it had over its own government. Dr. Kepi, how do you see this? You worked so hard to warn the Americans about this problem.
Well, let's take a look at this statement I've written for us today.
Freedom is an illusion in the world as it is at the moment.
I even wrote a book about this. Earth, the illusionary planet, to show that most of humanity pretty much lives in an illusion of uncontrolled consumerism, which we well know, plus the particularization of all assets, of all goods. We have 6 billion people on the planet, but those who use these assets don't even reach 1 billion. And so, I wrote here some data showing that human pathology has been placed in social life. Take a look at this other book I wrote.
Sociopathology, a study of the pathology in society, the basis of the new civilization of the third millennium.
90% of humanity is unconscious of what pathology is and unconscious of the problems we have. So, what are the most pressing dangers we have in society today? Let's have a look at the diagram.
Present dangers to civilization. First, particularization, all the power in the hands of a few.
Didn't there exist a kind of happiness about globalization? Everyone saying, globalization, this will bring equality for everyone. But it's nothing like that. Globalization is particularization. Those people who have great social and economic power, the multinationals, and these people with the power of money, are placing all the riches in the world in the hands of very few. Like this, the people become poorer in the same proportion as the millionaires get richer. And let's see what happens. Secondly,
unjust laws that only favor the powerful.
Because the people who are in power make the laws, obviously. They hire legal people to make laws to benefit themselves, not humanity. This is why all over the country the people are fighting against what people call the status quo. Of course, the status quo that exists favors only the powerful people. So let's see, thirdly.
Leaving the solution to problems in the hands of the powerful.
Take a look at the note I wrote.
It is necessary to follow the needs of the people and not only those of the powerful.
By those in power, I mean more this socio-economic power. They think that the world is here just to serve them. This is a very serious neurotic problem that I wrote about in social pathology. And what do I mean by this? A neurotic person arranges to take all he can for himself. He grabs the world for himself out of egoism, egocentrism. Those who are more mature try to do something for the world.